Conduit is probably the most hyped third-party game for the Wii since Red Steel, and probably not coincidentally, both are first-person shooters. So, what exactly is it about the genre that gets Wii owners all excited? Well, obviously the potential for the Wii Remote to do great things with the genre is high, and games like Call of Duty World at War and the outrageously well-made Metroid Prime 3 have proven those assumptions right for the most part. Still, that traditional first-person shooter experience, complete with a plethora of multiplayer modes, has eluded the system. So, in steps High Voltage Software with the intention of changing that. The Conduit has been promised from day one to be the definitive first-person shooter for the system, with the lofty goal in mind of bringing the same experience on the Xbox 360 and PS3 to the Wii. So, does it live up to the hype? Well, that all depends on what type of gamer you are and what exactly you were expecting from the Conduit. As far as the single-player campaign goes, if you're expecting a game of epic proportions with lavishly designed cutscenes and a super engaging story, you're in for disappointment. If you're like me, however, and all you really need is a bad guy behind everything to aim to take down and plenty of cannon fodder in your way to dispose of, well, you'll probably enjoy yourself. Releasing the Conduit in the middle of June, just after the official start of summer, it just seems so appropriate. It's the summer blockbuster of video games. Actually, it's more like the original X-Men compared to The Dark Knight. And by that I mean it's obviously more low budget and made by a more inexperienced team than something like Resistance or Halo, but it works well with what it has available and gets an A for effort most of the time. Carrying the low-budget blockbuster analogy even further, flair is one thing this game definitely has. Everything from the visuals to the audio to the weapon design is very polished and well put together. It's when it's broken down and looked at on a game design level that it starts to falter. The levels are very straightforward. I mean, most first-person shooters are straightforward, but this one is set in very closed-off, very confined areas that only have one way for you to go. Also, a lot of the areas unfortunately look the same throughout the level. That's not to say each level looks the same, but often you'll find several rooms in a row that look identical. But to me, this is kind of a welcome type of first-person shooter, because all these story-driven ones and, the huge set pieces and whatnot, this one harkens back to the more classic games in the genre like Doom and Quake, and I don't know, it just kind of felt refreshing after a little while. Strangely enough, also, the game's final two levels, they're the only two not set in a real-life location, and they're also the most beautiful graphically and the most original in design. It's kind of funny in a way because for all the flack this game gets with the lack of originality, it's the two most original levels that are the standouts. And it also makes me think that maybe this game might have fared better if it were like on a space station or something like Doom, where, they just were able to create everything themselves. Anyway, there seemed to be a shortage of enemy types in the game too. There were maybe 10 or 11 throughout the entire game, and that includes what I guess would be considered the boss characters. They're these giant bugs, you'll probably see them in the trailer. I think there were only 3 in the whole game, and I think they were all in the same level. So really, the bottom line is to expect a lot of repetition in the single player. Now luckily, the core mechanic of shooting is as visceral and satisfying as it's ever been. This game has some great weapon designs that are really fun to use, and thankfully High Voltage does a pretty decent job of mixing up the few enemies they do have, so it doesn't seem like you're just shooting the same guys over and over all the time. And as run-of-the-mill as a single player is in its design, I still found myself enjoying it, and I've actually gone back several times throughout levels and gotten some of the collectibles. Again, it's nothing groundbreaking, and there are no big set pieces or cutscenes to take in, but if you like your action without any BS, the single player might do it for you. Now, where this game really shines is in its multiplayer. It supports up to 12 players, and even supports Wii Speak, so you can do all the trash talking you want, provided you're playing against friends, and they also have Wii Speak. And that's the thing, not a lot of people have Wii Speak, so you can't chat in public matches, so team games are still hard to coordinate, but at least you can play team games, unlike, Call of Duty World at War. I personally think there are plenty of modes to keep you busy, and there's personal stat tracking, which is also nice. The biggest thing they've done here, though, is with the friend codes. You can either trade in-game codes like usual, or if you have people already entered in your Wii system memory as friends, you can just import them and send friend requests. That's something every game should have done since day one. Also, you can join friends in public matches, that's another very welcome feature, and you can add friends of friends, that's another very nice feature. Hopefully we'll see other online games take note of the Conduit and those things will become more regular, but I'm not holding my breath. Now let's talk about the big thing this game was allotted for, the controls. It's undeniable that the Wii Remote helps this game out. It's been said by every reviewer out there, and I know it's tired, but I have to address this. If you were to play this game with a dual analog controller, it would not be nearly as fun. That's because the customization you're given with the Wii Remote in this game is so good that it makes dual analog look like a complete joke. That said, High Voltage software has still included a lock-on function, just like Metroid Prime, and that's fine, but it can be used online. It almost sets the game back as a result. I mean, the increased accuracy the IR pointer provides is enough for me. I don't particularly dislike the lock-on function, but it never should have been allowed online. It's just really cheap. Seriously, locking on and meleeing someone to death is about as cheap as it gets. I'm sure you'll see what I mean. In the end, the Conduit doesn't break any new ground for the genre, but not every game has to. It's never promised to have a riveting story or be the most tactile shooter on the market, and it certainly isn't, but I hope you don't need a game to be all of that just in order to find it enjoyable. This is a first effort in a new genre for what was up to this point a shovelware developer. This game has a lot of effort put into it, and although it stumbles here and there with some ugly textures and a sometimes bad frame rate, and so much bloom lighting Mass Effect would be proud, it's still a fun, mindless 5-hour romp as far as the single player goes. As far as the multiplayer, it does a lot of new things for the Wii, not gaming in particular, but there's still a lot of fun to be had even if you're a seasoned veteran of other online shooters. And I am one. A sequel would work wonders for this franchise. I think there's enough groundwork here to really make something special. Hopefully High Voltage gets that chance. Hey, it worked for Killzone.